live now. There'll be some music that starts the show and all of that, and then we'll get to talk. Okay.
It is entertaining, it is educative, it is informative. It is the Friday Night Mix Show with Fola Atoloye. Join in every Friday from 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time till the mic drops. Friday Night Mix Show. Tune in to the fun.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. We can talk about it. Yeah. So sorry, I didn't remember to let you know that Maria will be joining us also on the show. I completely flew my mind. Yeah. So that's David meets Maria. Maria meets David. How you say it? True. Yeah. Maria has like really personal conversations around mental health and all of that. So, and we've been friends for a while. So she was like, this is something that is dear to her. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's a community. Just join us. Let's have a conversation around it. And that's why she's on the show. Yeah. So the show I've started actually. Normally we have a temp. All right, welcome to the Friday Night Mix Show. It's my humble self again, Fola, on the show this evening. Wherever you're watching from Nigeria, I know it is about 12:30 a.m. right now. In the UK, the same thing. In the US, it's about 9:30 p.m. Did I say 9:30 p.m.? I actually meant 7:30 p.m. Anyway, in the US. And right here in Canada, it's 5:33 p.m. And it's great to have everyone on the Friday Night Mix Show. And as we normally would do, wherever you're watching from, make sure that you're following and liking and commenting. Just do what you have to do to make sure you're part of this community. Today, we are going to be talking about something really serious, and it's dear to my heart because I've seen the data and it's not looking really nice. But we have to talk about it. We just have to talk about it, right? And that's why I am on the show today. As you can see, I'm riding solo again today. My very amiable friend and co-host wouldn't be able to join me for circumstances beyond powers, right? But we just pray that we all have good health, and we are all set up in such a way that we can cope with whatever the world and whatever nature throws at us. But I'm not alone today. I won't be alone today. I have very great friends that will be joining me, and we'll be talking about the topic. As we all know, the topic is simple. It says, let's have a conversation about suicide. And just before we begin, let us know that everyone on the show today, we are not psychoanalysts. We're not psychologists. We're not here to let you, to analyze suicide and all of that or mental health. We're just here to talk about it from the human aspect. So whatever we see on the show is based on personal experience or family and friends experiences also, and to see, to talk about it in such a way that we can put a face to it, and then we can maybe help somebody out there. So like I said earlier, today we'll be talking about suicide and the consequences of what that is, because it's a Christian show, right? We want to also demystify the fact that, is it a sin or is it not a sin, right? Because from where I come from, we've grown up to hear things like no one has a right to take their lives because there should be sanctity of life and all of that. But I want to just talk about it a little bit and see. All right, like I said, I'm not alone on the show. I have with me my amiable friend, and I'm just gonna introduce them quickly on the show this afternoon. And first, let me talk about my friend. He is a trained microbiologist with emphasis in medical microbiology. He is a graduate of natural health and nutrition, healing with a doctorate. He's a lead consultant at the Nutraceutical Health Solutions, a health and wellness advisory company that provides services in the management, reversal, and prevention of health conditions through diet and lifestyle modification. His practice is the use of diet and lifestyle modification, which he has seen to reverse several conditions, and some that are medically termed incurable. He's an author, a conference speaker, and a convener of the Black History Natural Health and Healing. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Mr. David Ayodeji Alabi. Oh, is it back on? He's back on. Mr. David, thank you for joining. Are you there?
Okay, now I'm here now. I don't know what happened. I was just taken out of the. I was just taken out of. I was trying to
join in
and be like, guys, get me back.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Let me quickly introduce my next guest also, my other guest rather on the show. Her name is Katrina, aka Maria or Mariah. She said we can call her name as we want. She's a TikToker, but more importantly, she's a positive influencer. She's a mother of 4 children. She's an entrepreneur. She has a career in management, and she just loves uplifting people whatever way she can. And the reason why she's on the show today is because she's actually had personal experiences with what we're going to talk about today. Maria, Katrina, please welcome to the show. Say hello to us. Can you hear us? Yeah, it's great to have you. All right. So let's get into it. Let's talk about suicide. And I have some not so palatable data here. I'm just going to quickly go through it so that we can have a premise we can walk on and talk on. Suicide is death caused by injuring oneself with an intent to die, right? That's just wanted to put the definition out there. And it does say, based on the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, it does say that the suicide rates increased approximately 36% between 2000 and 2021. Suicide is responsible for 48,183 deaths in 2021. Mind you, this is in the US. If I'm going to be reading about our own cases here in Canada, let me just go there quickly. It does say suicide impacts people of all ages and backgrounds in Canada. Every year, approximately 4,500 people in Canada die by suicide. Now, the United States has over 300 million people, right? Canada has about 44 to 48 million people. So we have to look at the ratio, not just the number now. Based on our population, 4,500 people die every year by suicide. This is equivalent to 12 people dying by suicide every day. That's 12 people too much, right? And that's Canada. Let's talk a little bit about Nigeria. Nigeria is even a little, I mean, that's where we're from. And the reason we don't even have enough data in Nigeria to talk about suicide, but the leader that did the research on from the National Library of Medicine, it does say that suicide, the available evidence suggests that Nigerian suicide rate of 17.3 per 100,000 people stands above the global 10.5 per 100,000 and that of Africa at 12.0 per 100,000 estimates. So this means that, it's a topic we have to talk about because it's now rampant. It's now becoming an epidemic. I could say it's an epidemic because if it's preventable, then we should have a way to have a conversation about it. Let me start with you, Mr. David. Is suicide a sin? Are you there? Can you hear me? I think we have internet issue with. All right, let me go to Katrina quickly. What do you think are the reasons why the numbers are getting even higher when it comes to suicide rates in the world generally?
I think there's a multitude of reasons. I think the world that we live in nowadays is even that much more harder for everyone. I feel that there is not enough awareness on the feelings and emotions and things that you're going through that lead to the moment of that happening or thinking about that moment. I think there's a lot of shame that comes with it. I think that it comes down to a lot of those factors that somebody maybe feels so alone. You could narrow it down to like how men would feel. Sometimes women feel that way. Men are trying to provide everything and they get in this and they don't feel they can talk to anybody about it, right? And I think that generally is the thing, or you come from a culture that it is not really talked about and it doesn't really mean anything in that culture, right? And it's very serious what happens to somebody that leads to either those thoughts or actually committing suicide.
Yeah. Is Pastor David back with us? Can you hear us? Can you say something?
I'm here right now.
Oh, perfect.
You can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Let's stick with this connection, okay?
Yeah. No worries at all. I mean, I asked you the first question, but because you're not there, I had to go to Mary. But I want to quickly do a follow-up.
Sorry about that.
No worries. No, it's not your fault. It's internet, right? But let me quickly follow up on what you said, Maria, because it's very key. You talked about men, and it actually shows that men are, higher risk of committing suicide. It says in Canada, men and boys and people serving federal sentences, they are more at risk of committing suicide. Why do you think men, though? Why men?
I really feel that men are brought up to be raised that they are the man. They shouldn't cry. They shouldn't show emotion. They have the weight of being the provider, taking care of the family. They face everything they face in the world on a daily basis, being a man. It's not okay to show emotion or frustration or feelings or overwhelmed or these types of things. It's been very shunned upon in the world for years and years and years. And I would say that a lot of men at one point in their lives have felt that. So when you add in what leads to suicide, those feelings on top of that is very intense for anybody.
And then the economic situation is not even getting better. There's war and the rumor of war, and all of that tends to just gets to us. So the question I asked you, David, initially before you were, I don't know if you heard all the data that I read out. That might be key to. Were you able to?
I did.
Perfect. Perfect. So the question to that I want us to take out of the way so we can actually delve deeper into this conversation is suicide a sin?
Okay. Thank you very much. So The analysis is very simple. Katrina says something about what the cultural expectations are, which put a kind of a pressure or a burden on the male gender. Alongside these, there are also some religious beliefs that are kind of not helping. For example, we've lost someone, or someone who lost someone due to suicide. All right. And in religious circles, we believe in the life hereafter. We believe that after all of this, there is a better place. Though nobody wants to die to go to that better place because life is good. Okay. And so we believe that after this world, there are certain things that you do here that will determine where you spend eternity.
That's right.
And so what happens to anyone on this side of eternity, our expectation is that you will spend eternity in a better place. All right?
Yeah.
And so when we lose loved ones because of suicide, we are more pained than ordinarily losing loved ones to other circumstances or conditions, because religiously, we have been programmed, and I use the word programmed, to believe that whoever commits suicide commits a sin and they are going to hell. Of course, the premises for that is that you did not create life, and so because you did not create life, you have no right to take a life that you never created. And so if you take your own life, then it's a sin. But the education and the awareness, which Katrina talked about, this is where that comes in. And it comes in because we must understand that people who commit suicide are doing so because of a mental illness. It's sickness. The question is, can someone go to hell because of a sickness? Does it make any sense to God? Does it make any sense to a loving father, a caring father who loves us according to what all the religions and all the faiths profess, that God is a loving God, is a caring father? Because most times we look at religious issues from one perspective, and we refuse to look at the entire picture, the entire picture. So someone who is healed, someone, for example, say cancer, someone had cancer and died of cancer. Do you know that some 50, 60 years ago, in some religious circles, if you are sick, if you fall ill, they regard you as an immature believer.
As a Christian.
Go find out. Because they believe that if you are so spiritual, you shouldn't be sick at all. And the scriptures is replete of examples of even Apostle Paul. In 1 Corinthians 13, he was talking about the infirmity that was placed in his body to buffet him. You have several examples. He spoke about Timothy, who had an infirmity in his body, and because of that, he had to take certain stuff. But because knowledge was limited in those days, and so people believe that if you are healed as a believer, you are not strong enough. And so if someone dies of cancer in those days, I believe they will say he's gone to hell. So now, because of the lack of light, we still believe that people who commit suicide, who take their own lives, are also, going into that damnable eternity. And then it's not so, because there is no condition. As I said, light, nobody, even a drunk man, somebody who is drunk, who is under the influence of alcohol, would not take his life, would not want to take his life with him. How much more somebody who, because of one frustration, one disappointment or the other, and then they just wake up and say, oh, because of this, I'm going to take my life. No, nobody wakes up to do that. Nobody does that. But it's because they've reached a tipping point, their threshold, their emotional cup. That is what I would call it. It's got into a tipping point where they can no longer undo things. And it's not a show of strength. It's not a show of how mighty, how strong they are, or whatever. No, we all have emotional cups. It's our emotional capacity. And then how we fill it up and how we empty it determines how we handle life situations when they are thrown at us. Because a little drop, I have seen people who have been able to face life and face very hard situations of life. And some lesser things would happen to them. And then they just take their lives. You know why? It's because their emotional cup had built up. They never emptied it. For example, there are people who are yet to forgive themselves of failing a subject in high school. Whenever they remember, you will be surprised at the motivation for people for people doing what they do. You see people with the drive at work. You see them the way they work hard. Most of them are doing those things because of one failure in their lives. They never healed. They never healed from those failures. They never healed from those traumas. There are people who have yet to forgive themselves for their failed marriages. They believe that marriage failed because of them. And failure is not a person. Failure is an event. But because they never healed properly, so they begin to accumulate so much into their emotional cup. And then something little happens. That could be just a drop of water that tips the cup, and then suicide takes place. So it's a state of emotional illness, mental illness. And then we need to actually enlighten people about this. And then I guess in the course of this program, we'll have to talk about so many things that probably will be a way out to help people.
Absolutely. And that's the reason for this program, because for the topic today, because I wanted us to really just shed light on it and make sure that one or two persons somewhere, or people, millions, whatever it is, can listen to it and really find solace and find answers if we may. Let me come to you, Katrina. Can you share some personal experience with us when it comes to this topic about mental health and all of that? Is there anything you would like to talk to us about?
Sure. I will be, I'll brief it down. I've had two times in my life where this hit me very hard. Once was with my fourth daughter. I got postpartum depression, extremely bad. It was, I actually ended up having to be hospitalized for a month. That's how bad it was. What I can tell you about it is that my mind was strong enough to know what I was thinking. I thought something I wouldn't hurt my child, but I thought something bad was going to happen because of me. And the thoughts were so irrational. And I grew up with a father who has severe mental illness. So I was very, educated. And anyways, I spent the time in the hospital and I learned a lot at that time. And it's a very serious thing. The next instance I'll go into is about last year. 3 years ago, I had something I don't really want to divulge, but something very, very traumatic happened in my life. And it was if, life was just kicking me and things. And I just had this moment that it was like, so I say this to the people that have lost somebody so they can understand a little bit, because I fully understand. And I'll tell you why I think I understand after. The moment before somebody does that, it is an experience and a feeling that it takes you into, like, I called it a trance. I was in a trance. I was so focused. There was nothing that was taking me out of it. I was like, this is what's going to happen. And I was just like, it just was going. So I believe when people are in that moment, whether they know right from wrong, whether they have their religious backgrounds or not, there's a moment in your brain or whatever is happening that leads to the actual event. For whatever reason, and I believe in God. I don't go to church. I grew up very religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I believe that God did bring me out of that to find purpose. And this is why it is so close to me, because I have literally lost people and been with people that lost people, and I have almost lost me. And in that moment, it took me out. And for whatever reason, I just went right to sleep. It was a very powerful moment. And, it's not a very easy thing to go through. It's very challenging. You beat yourself up. Why do I feel this way? Now, I don't have any major mental illnesses, but I do suffer from depression and anxiety. And I had a lot of unhealed trauma. So that led to a series of events in my life 3 years ago that led to that moment, right? And in that happening, it changed me. I believe that God showed me that so that I can help others. I've had people that have lost people, and I tell them that experience so they know that maybe that person, they weren't 100% right at that moment, and it maybe necessarily isn't their fault. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of anger and frustration when people leave people behind.
True.
You know, I've watched families be destroyed by this.
True.
And sometimes it is mental illness, and sometimes it is the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you get feeling so hopeless, and it's like being on a hamster wheel. You're like, I suck, I'm hopeless, this is that, all the things, the self-talk that goes in your head, you know, it gets at you, and you can get into that moment. And for whatever reason, I ended up seeing obviously a psychiatrist and helping myself through therapy. And I remember the psychiatrist always he told me I was psychologically smart. And for a lot of my life, I've been told opposite of things, even though I know things. I'm like, I know this to be true. I understand this feeling. I knew this, but the doubt of others and different things made me doubt myself so much. So now I always go back to, this is circumstantial. This is circumstances. This is irrational feeling. So those are just some key things that can maybe help people a little bit, is to take yourself back a little bit, assess the situation, what's realistic, what's unrealistic in this moment. And it can help you, because I have done it myself, and I continue to do it. And this is why I'm so passionate, especially on my TikTok or this topic, is because I do know how it feels on both sides. And I know what it takes to survive it.
To survive. Before I move on, I just want us to quickly, I just want to pick out something from that, because I'm really intrigued with the fact that, you know, the way you painted the picture there, it's about getting into that space, you call it the trance, where it looks like you're laser focused on what you are good. What I want to know is, are you laser focused on, this is what I have, or were you, let me use the word were you, this is what I have to do now to get out of this depression, or what I've been, and was it like, I have to take my life now? How did it feel? What was that feeling, if you can capture it in words?
It's sorry. It's a very dark, painful place. And I want to say you almost can't help it, but you almost can't. Sorry guys, I didn't intend to be emotional, but
take your time, please.
Okay.
It's definitely really, really hard. And it's you feel so bad at that moment. Nothing is working. It's hopeless to the worst you've ever felt in your whole entire life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's dark. I would say it's an evil feeling, if you will. It's a very evil feeling, and I knew there's the part that you know, but you can't get to that part, if that makes sense.
It's like you're groveling for the light. You're groveling for something there.
You just want everything to end. You want it to all go away. If I just do this, then everything is better. Then I don't have to suffer. I don't have to feel this. I don't have to hear the negativity. I don't have to continue to have this mental anguish in my head, you know? So I was very fortunate, and I believe that God wanted me here still to do stuff. So
yeah. I mean, your story is very important for us, or to us today. And I'm sure somebody's listening that's probably going through depression and can relate with what you're saying and can say, okay, or probably somebody somewhere might be having that thought and might just be drifting towards that. And your story today has been so powerful. I've got to let you know. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the reason why I asked also is because some people still blame their loved ones, right? Why would you have to do that? Why would you have to take your life? Yeah, you don't even care about it. I mean, I've seen families who say that. You need to understand the reason why people do these things. We can't blame them. we must not blame them. I mean, where I come from, and I'm going to ask this question to David because I want your thoughts on this. Where I'm coming from, people will tell you things like, "Is that the reason why you want to take your life?" We trivialize it, right? So that's the reason why you want to. There's so many stories now. In fact, as recently as 2 weeks ago, there was a guy that wanted to hang himself on the Lekki Road, right? Just in the middle of the road. And people, they were able to, take him down and all of that. And they were even beating him. They were kind of hitting him that's how crazy it is. And then I read a story that really broke my heart. A girl, she's in the university in Nigeria, and her mom gave her ₦1 million to, I think 1.5 million naira to keep in her account. And for some reason, she gave the money she met a guy they were dating, and then she gave the money to the guy, and the guy ran away. And then she killed herself.
Wow.
Can I just add one thing just before? I don't mean to interject.
Go ahead.
But it is also important in that to remember that people have severe mental illness for their loved ones, and that some people, it is the mental illness that takes over as well. I just want to make sure that is highlighted.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about the mental illness for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for putting that in. Quickly, before I ask you the question, David, I do have some graph here. It just talks about the highest level by percentage, the reasons, the causes for suicide. And it does say, just like Maria just said, 50% of people who take their lives for suicide is caused by diagnosed mental problem. So you're correct there. It's, half of the number is actually those with mental problems. So we're probably going to deal a little bit more about the mental part of it. And then it has 31% for recent crisis, upcoming crisis. And then surprisingly, I never thought about this, but it says 27% for intimate partner problem. I was surprised when I saw that. So that means issues in marriage, issues in relationship can also be a driving factor for suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, and all of that. So, in your experience, David, because you talked about this on your Instagram, how do we deal with mental problems, which is like the leading factor for suicide? What do you think we can do to help? Do we need more education for people? Should it be on the TV, on social media more? Or what can we do to help when it comes to this mental problem issue?
All right. Thank you very much. And Katrina, it's okay. Again, that's something the generation after us, is it the Gen Z, what you call them right now? That's something they are doing very good at. And then we seem to be shutting them down because we just have a generation who doesn't care about sorry, I'm back. We just have a generation who would not care about what the culture is saying. They don't care. They just have a life to live and they want to live it. And so how my generation has been made, we've been programmed to apologize, to be apologetic for almost everything. So I'm bothered more by how other people feel or how they would feel about my actions than how I would feel about my actions, about the consequences of my actions. If it does make me feel good and it doesn't make others feel good, I don't do it. But if it makes them feel good and doesn't make me feel good, I have to do it because I want to make them feel good. But there is a generation coming after us who don't care. If it doesn't make you feel good, deal with it. As long as it makes me feel good, I'm okay. Okay, so let's start by saying that awareness. Yes, we've spoken a lot about awareness, education. We need to speak more about it. But above that is the issue of, alongside with that is the issue of removing the stigma that is associated with mental health. All right. And so, pardon me if I'm making examples that have to do with the religious or faith circles, because about 20 years back, a renowned televangelist in the US was speaking, and in his speech, he said he had to go see his
psychologist,
psychologist, his psychotherapist, and something like that. And then he was taken off. How can you, a pastor? How can you? But you know what? This is my recommendation. Every adult, not even adults, because after COVID, we saw the rate of depression even in kids of school age. We saw how, because it's a question of how we all handle the pressures of our lives, our everyday living. You know, it could be so much for even children. I mean, in the case of divorce, we have divorces, and people don't even think about the impact of divorce on the kids in the home. And they are seriously impacted by this, okay? And so we need to remove the stigma and make mental wellness a normal thing. That is, okay. Fola and I, we come from a culture where probably you never saw your dentist until you have a toothache.
That's true.
Katrina, that might be strange to you, right?
Trust me, I know.
You know, right? Okay. But since, I'm sure, Fola, since you came to North America, you know that twice in a year, every 6 months is your dental appointment.
That's right.
Same for you and for your kids. I have a friend in the US who had never seen a dentist. Funny thing is that his younger brother is actually a dentist. You know what happened to him? He had a gum infection that affected his entire gum, and they had to plug off all his teeth. Everything was removed. A little above 40. This is something that will have been taken care of with, proper dental visit. It will have been taken care of. Now, the same way we take, dental visits important, we should get to a point where at least in a quarter, or like once in 6 months, you should see a psychologist. You should see a counselor. You should unpack. And just like, okay, so I'm using a dental appointment right now as an example. If your first dental visit, a good dentist is going to before they even do your cleaning, they're gonna take the X-ray. They're gonna take the X-ray of your teeth, because the X-ray will give them an history. Will make them know how many teeth you have left, whether you're chipping on them, whether you have any feeling, whether it gives them a history. Now, some people would need that kind of first visit. That first visit could take 2, 3, 4 visits, because there are so many issues to be unpacked.
Unburdened.
If we do not unpack, it will be difficult to reduce suicide, depression,
or suicidal thoughts.
Okay, I understand. I'm saying this, and I think this would apply. I'm saying this, and I know this would apply in several cases. In most cases. And so once we remove the stigma, we make visiting psychologists, visiting psychotherapists, visiting them as normal, just like we go for our dental appointments. We would have resolved suicide issues by about 50%.
Yeah.
We would see it as normal. People will have you observed that people will take their lives a day before taking their lives, have no sign that they will take their lives the following day. There are even those who take their lives an hour before then. Nobody would. So you see people who walk on the roads, you don't even know what they're going through. You don't even know their mental state. Many are just at that level, at the verge of taking their lives. So what do? Let's unpack. Let's visit the psychologist more. Let's visit the psychotherapist more. Let's remove the stigma. Let's talk about, because of course we will tell people seek help. Seek help from who?
From who?
Seek help from somebody who says keep praying.
Because Not to cut you short, I know you're still going to continue the point. Most of us, from where we come from, David, from where we come from, we would normally go seek help from the pastor. Is the pastor the right person to seek help from?
The pastor himself needs help.
Exactly. You need to seek help from the professional.
Exactly. You need to seek help from a professional. It is not a pastor's place. Of course, the pastor has gotten his own place in your recovery.
Yeah.
You need that support system. All right. But they cannot do the job. They cannot help you get the job done. And so you want to check in. And again, you see, many of us are here in North America. We're working. We have health benefits. We do not know that this is part of the benefits that we have. But it is something you don't even pay for.
And
It's
even
your
if you don't
insurance.
have it, there's free stuff through the doctor and this. There is something for everybody.
Everywhere.
Mhm.
You got resources here and there, And for those who are not living in this climate, look around you. There are several resources you can actually, assess. And I think that would be a quick. I mean, if you ask me quickly, what can we do? I would say those are quick steps, quick wins that we can actually do. And please you don't have to care about what people would say. Do this for yourself.
For yourself.
And do this for your health.
Let me,
You're doing it. You can just go and do your own therapy on your own and
your own.
not even care if you don't want to. Just go and do it. It will help you.
yeah. Katrina, I was going to come to you, actually, because I wanted to ask, what are the signs, if I have a friend, a family member, what are the signs that I can look out for to know that this person needs help? I can, I should do something about it now, maybe and even just saying that, please let me read out this. There's a phone number you can reach if you need to talk to somebody, just because I thought I was going to read it out. It's the phone line for the Talk Suicide Canada. It's 1-833-456-4566. If you need to talk to somebody, it's free. You can call that line and please talk to somebody. I mean, that's basically what we've been saying since. But Katrina, what do you think are the telltale signs that I can know that my brother, my friend might need help?
Okay, so this is a little bit tricky because if somebody is really suffering from depression or any kind of mental illness, a lot of people tend to hide it. If you were looking at me, you would never be able to tell. But now some things, there could be weight gain, weight loss. There could be cleanliness of the house. Their lack of motivation to leave the house. There is lack of motivation to do anything, not take care of things. Maybe don't do themselves up like they used to. They're crying more or not showing any emotion. It's it honestly is very tricky. And if you know a person very well, fatigue, sleeping a lot, not sleeping enough, right? It goes on different scales, right? Because these are the things that I know, and I'm obviously not a doctor or anything, but these are signs. And if you know your friends well, if you have a feeling, how do I put it this way? If you have a feeling that your person or your friendship or whatever the case, if something doesn't feel right, then you go and investigate that and you let that person know that you're here and you're not here to judge. You're here to help, whatever you can do. Sometimes it's taking a meal. I'm old fashioned. I take my neighbor's meals all the time. Hey, how you doing? Here's your jollof. I do this kind of stuff. Kindness, right? Kindness goes a long way. And I think it's really important to check on your friends, your family members, your coworkers. You don't know that one person coming into work every single day. They're bubbly and they're the light of the party. They're this, they're that. But in the inside, they're dying. Right. And I'm not saying walk up to people and, you have to have some kind of rapport. But if you feel something isn't right, you're probably right.
Once your gut tells you, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, David.
Sorry. There's something I'd like to chip in there about the helpline, the number you just read out.
Yes.
It's not only for people who are having suicidal thoughts. If you have lost someone to suicide,
that's right.
You want to call that helpline too. you also need help. Now, so this, because the start is also there. People who have lost loved ones to suicide are also prone to suicidal thoughts. And so if it's in the family, a loved one or something like that, and then if the thought keeps reoccurring, you may want to use that upline. They might guide you to recovering and to healing properly, because it's a traumatic experience, whether you saw the body of the person or not. Because even the sight of it, seeing it, witnessing it, and all of that is traumatic. And if that trauma is not properly addressed, unpacked, and healed, dealt with, it could fill up your emotional cup. I will keep talking about the emotional cup. And so you want to use that helpline too. You might want to call the helpline again so that people can actually get the number for people who live in.
I will. I was just going to wait till you finish so I can call the line again, please. The line is 1-833-456-4566. I'll call the line again. You can write it down. Who knows, sometime one might need to share with someone else. It's 1-833-456-4566. It's online. If you Google Suicide Canada, you would find that line. Please call somebody and speak to somebody. Let's quickly, I know we can finish this conversation today, but we'll definitely continue next week. But because we've not even, you said what, Maria?
I do have to go in about 10 minutes. Sorry.
Yes, we all have to go soon, but let's just quickly talk about this quickly. Do you know that in the United States, suicide is not illegal, but it's associated with some penalties for those who are tempted. In some African countries, most African countries, suicide is actually illegal. You could go to jail for actually trying to commit suicide. In some religion like Christianity, most forms of Christianity considers suicide as sinful, based mainly on the writings of influential Christian thinkers. Judaism considers life as very valuable, so suicide is tantamount to denying God's goodness in the world. Islam, the same thing. Hinduism. Now, my question is, if all the religious bodies still considers suicide as sinful or evil, how are we going to change this? 55% of Nigerians are Christians. The remaining 40, whatever is, maybe 1% are traditionalists. So the whole country are religious. If you come to places like maybe Malaysia or India, we are mostly religious in these places. And if the religion we follow is still considering this as sinful, how do we combat this?
For there is, for example, the Christian faith. There are seminaries and theological schools where a whole lot of the body of knowledge, where they are formed or they're tested, theories are postulated, they're tested there, and I can assure you that a whole lot is changing.
Okay.
All right. A whole lot of conversations are going on. There is a lot of engagement. The statistics for suicide among pastors will shock you. It's even shocking more than, it's just like we talk about divorce. It's the rate even among pastors. So because the issue is that these things are common to men. Look at the Bible, you will see the stories of depression from Genesis up to Revelation. It is common to men. As long as you are human, you would feel depression at one point of your life or the other. And see, the problem with religion is that we hide under a finger, which is hypocrisy, not being truthful to ourselves. But people are dealing with stuff. And so when what you preach or what you push to them as religion is not
realistic,
helping them, is not realistic enough to help them solve their everyday life issues, people will look for solutions elsewhere.
Can you give us examples of Bible characters that were suicidal? I would be interested.
David was suicidal. And it was obvious in the book of Psalms. You will see so many of the Psalms, the Psalms he wrote. Elijah was suicidal. He said, God, take my life. I am not better off than my forebears. You see so many examples of characters that we look up to in the Bible that were suicidal.
You said something to me while we're talking today. You said even Jesus
Okay, so that I
That
don't want to
touched
be
me.
stoned. I don't want someone to stone me for saying that, because what is the definition for suicide? When you take your life. Jesus took his life. And that was what he said. Nobody took my life from me. I laid it
Laid
down.
it down.
Yeah. And when you read at the epistles of Paul, he said, I die daily. So somebody is dying every day. But when we look at these words in the literal meaning, they could mean suicidal thoughts.
True.
They could mean like, I take no cost, I take no account for my life. I don't care about life anymore, which is what the faith, our faith preaches. I mean, the Christian faith preaches it. The Islamic faith preaches it, and that's why you see people who can wear bombs, explosives on themselves, and walk into a crowd and blow up themselves, because their faith preaches such. But knowledge is coming, and light is coming, and it has to come. And people must know that, look, these things are not normal, because for the extremists, because they have been radicalized. That is the word. So it takes a lot to radicalize someone, to change someone's thinking to the extent that, look, he would want to like take his life for any cause, especially religion, for a God. I would think my God should fight for me. I shouldn't be fighting for my God. He should protect me. I shouldn't be protecting him. He's a superpower. He's a super being. I'm just an ordinary being.
That's right.
But when people begin to think they can do that, it shows something is wrong with their thinking. And so light is coming. In seminaries, there are engagements. There are conferences right now going on and looking for a way out. A whole lot of people churches are beginning to invite and engage professionals to help them in helping their congregation. So things will change.
Things will change.
For crying out loud, who would believe that the Pope would say gay unions will be blessed 10 years ago? Things will change. Things will change.
Things will change for sure. We have less than 5 minutes to round up now. For today, we're going to continue next week. I hope that Katrina will be available next week to also join us so that we can finish up this conversation fully. But before we go, just your thought, because next week, what we're going to be talking about, really, we're going to be bringing it down to the level of, talk about the economic issues that causes this, because I know quite a lot of reasons might be mental issues, economic issues. We do have, I talked about it before, intimate partner problems, alcohol problems, family problem, job problem, financial problem, legal problem. There's so many reasons why people do commit suicide. But just the last word for today before we leave, what would you quickly just suggest to somebody? I know I asked you earlier if you have a loved one that how can you sense? Now, if you have somebody who's actually having this suicidal ideation and thought, what would you suggest? What would be the thing you would say to such a person?
I think the biggest things is to first not make them feel bad for thinking it. For two, give them words of encouragement like, you are okay, you are doing a good job. Leave today's emotions here and you can start. Joy comes in the morning, right? So whatever you feel at night, joy comes in the morning. So change, and pat yourself on the back and be easy. Small victory, any victory is a victory. And if you didn't do it all today, you have tomorrow to combat it as well. Be easy and kind on yourself and your soul. Yeah. And just love on people.
Be easy on yourself. David, what would you have to say? Just the last word on that before we go today.
Maybe when we come back next week, we would be able to delve into that, because like what Katrina said, rather than be easy on yourself. A lot of people are extremely critical. A lot of people are extremely critical of themselves and of other people. So that's why they're unable to forgive themselves. And people are having unresolved issues, traumas, loss of loved ones, betrayal, bitterness, anger, which also is part of the intimate partners issues that we talked about. There are people who are too serious. They are extremely serious. Like, look, fool around. Just take that liberty to just
Have fun.
play.
That's what Katrina
Play
does
like a
on her
cow.
TikTok. Have you seen her on her TikTok? She's always dancing, having fun, dancing to Nigerian songs, and engaging people in just come on, let's just have fun, let's just
Life
dance.
is not that.
Life is not that serious.
life is
It's not that deep.
hard. It's not that deep. Play around. Play some. Playfulness is healing. There is
It is.
healing in playfulness.
Loads of ways that
Right.
because I do it
Right.
daily. I have to do it daily,
Hmm.
or I can. Right, so I have
Right.
loads of things I can offer, and I've been doing this on my TikTok. So feel free to follow me on my TikTok.
Can you quickly give us a TikTok, the name on the TikTok?
Is MARIEH 4321.
I'm gonna put it up next week so that people can follow you. You right now have a 67,000 or 69,000 followers.
79,000.
79,000
Great.
followers on TikTok.
Awesome.
Oh no, shit.
That's awesome.
That
And I've
is.
Awesome.
recently started 4 days a week topics. Mondays is Men's Mental Health Day,
Nice.
men's edition. Yeah, Wednesdays is for the ladies. Tuesdays is self-love, stuff like that. Thursday, any topic. And then I kind of incorporate a few things. So I've been really starting to really talk about these things today. And getting men to talk about this is a big
Yeah,
deal.
it is.
especially in your
We
culture.
don't talk. We don't talk.
Yeah, because we've been programmed never to talk, and maybe next week when we come back next week, we will have to look into that as well. Look into that aspect of men, sleeplessness. You talked about sleeplessness the other time. It's a serious pointer. Even if you're not having those thoughts yet, you're not having depression yet. Not being able to sleep is like you're already on the pathway. You're on the bus that is following that route. Whether you're going to drop at the junction of depression or not is a matter of time. And then you would you be shocked to know that simple things like sugar would affect the way you sleep?
Oh, your diet.
Wow.
Huge. So many things.
Right.
There's so much to unpack, guys, because we were going to come to the diet, but of course I knew that today wouldn't work, right? I just knew that today would work. This is for somebody who's feeling depressed and feeling suicidal. Just know that somebody's there to listen to you. Somebody's there to hear you. You are worthy of something. You are good enough. Don't get to that spot where you feel like you don't worth anything. Just know that when we come back next week, we're going to be, rounding off on this topic. We're going to talk about how diets can help you. We're going to talk about how exercises can help you. I've got the guys in the house with the goods. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, Katrina. God bless you guys. When we come back next week, we will finish up on the topic suicide. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.